Welcome back. Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea from Lassie's Law, something they call the Symphony of Human Rights. We're going to explore how the law is being stretched in two incredible directions at once, redefining what it means to be alive, and at the same time, figuring out the absolute limits of power.
So let's just jump right in with a huge question. What actually has a right to exist? For centuries, we've thought about this in terms of people, right? Human rights. But what happens when the law starts asking, does a river have rights? What about a whole forest? You can see how this one question starts to change absolutely everything.
The way this story plays out is kind of beautiful, really. It's like a symphony in two parts. First, we're going to see the law reach outwards, trying to embrace and protect the natural world. And then, in the second movement, it turns inwards to protect the very core, the non-negotiable essence of what it means to be human.
All right, let's get into our first act, the soul of nature. This is where we explore a truly radical shift in thinking, the idea that nature isn't just a thing we own, property, but that it's a living entity with a voice of its own that the law is finally starting to hear.
This right here, this is the Whanganui River in New Zealand. Now, for more than 140 years, the local Maori Iwi fought for this river. For them, it's an ancestor. They have a sacred saying, "I am the river and the river is me." And get this, they won. The law now recognizes the river as a legal person. That means it has rights, it has protections, it can be represented in court just like you or me. It's an incredible idea, the law officially recognizing that nature has a soul.
And this is where the idea just explodes in scale. In Colombia, a group of 25 kids and young adults actually sued their own government. Their argument was simple and powerful. By allowing the Amazon to be destroyed, you are threatening our future. And the Supreme Court agreed with them. They declared the Colombian Amazon a subject of rights, an entity that deserves to be protected and restored. So in one move, the law went from protecting a single river to protecting the literal lungs of the world.
Okay, and this brings us to a really crucial pivot in the story. You see, as the law was learning to see the soul in a river, to feel the pulse in a forest, it forced us to look back at ourselves. It made us ask an equally deep question. What's the absolute bare minimum a person needs to live with dignity? And what is the absolute limit of power a government can have over a person? So let's move to Act 2 and see how this all connects. We're zeroing in on two landmark cases that, together, basically define the floor of human dignity and the ceiling of state power.
In post-apartheid South Africa, you had a massive housing crisis. People were living in truly desperate conditions. Well, the Grootboom case put this crisis right in front of the country's highest court, and the court's ruling was profound. They said, look, we know resources are limited, but the Constitution demands that the state must provide at least a basic level of housing for people in desperate need. Their message was crystal clear. Dignity isn't just some abstract idea. Dignity requires a door.
And this is the other side of that coin. Israel's Supreme Court was facing an unimaginable problem. How do you deal with terrorism? They had to rule on whether physical pressure was allowed during interrogations. Their decision was historic. They said a democracy's true strength isn't about using any means necessary. No. Its real power comes from holding on to its values, even when it's hard. As the court put it, a democracy must sometimes fight with one hand tied behind its back. That fairness, that's its ultimate weapon.
So what happens when we bring these two incredible legal movements together? One that's looking out at the soul of nature, and the other looking deep inside at the soul of humanity. What's the final verdict?
Well, here it is. The law, when it's doing its most important work, is basically building the invisible infrastructure that keeps us human. It's protecting the breath of the earth on one hand, because we all depend on it, while fiercely defending the dignity of every single individual on the other. It sets a floor for survival, you must have a door, and a ceiling for power, you cannot cross this line. And in that space between the floor and the ceiling, that's where we get to live. When you think about it, these cases show us a legal system that's alive, that's growing and stretching to meet the world we live in now. It found a soul in a river. It drew a non-negotiable line in the sand for human dignity. And that just leaves us with this one big question. With technology and climate change creating totally new challenges, what will the law have to recognize next to protect the very essence of life?